Good morning. My name is Philip Simon, and I am a member of the Equity Comedians Network, a group that was established a few years ago to better protect those of our members who work not just in variety, but specifically in the comedy industry, like me. I'm a full-time stand-up comedian, or at least I was until March of this year when I became a supply teacher in a home school that I imagine Ofsted would classify as inadequate. I've worked in the arts since my mid-teens, since even before graduating from the Guildford School of Acting in 2001. I have a degree in acting. I'm not doing this job out of some frivolous, whimsical need for attention. I'm doing it because it's what I've always wanted to do, what I've trained to do. I've invested time and money into ensuring I do it well and professionally, just like any other industry professional. And I love it more than anything I've ever done. I mainly stopped acting after spending too much time in the company of my alter ego Daddy Pig, and for the past 5 years my income has been almost exclusively from comedy, either through live gigging in the UK or abroad, or working on various projects for television or radio. I've worked hard, I've earned a living, and I've paid my taxes. And when 2020 started, things looked pretty good. So imagine a situation when, in just a matter of days, gig after gig after gig is tentatively postponed, indefinitely postponed, and then ultimately cancelled. Because that's what's happened to me and thousands of comedians. We couldn't be furloughed. We didn't have employers who could let us work from home, safe in the knowledge it was just a matter of time until we could pick up where we left off. We were on our own. And most of us did what we do best. We got creative. You couldn't come to comedy, so we'd bring the comedy to you, online. So whilst everyone else was using Zoom to catch up with friends and family or hosting meetings that ironically showed us how redundant offices might become, comedians were pioneering its use along with other streaming platforms to entertain people stuck in their own homes. Online gigs were soon very much a staple part of the comedy landscape. Assuming lockdown would only be a matter of weeks, it seemed bearable that sometimes the income from these gigs was far lower than actual live comedy. But that's the thing about a vocational profession. It's not always about the money. Often it's about the art. But sometimes it's about the money. And once it was clear COVID wasn't going away, financial support was made available to many freelancers, myself included, through the Self-Employment Income Support Scheme. Of course, this was appreciated, but it wasn't nearly enough. First 80% and then 70% of my average monthly profits. And we've recently heard there may shortly be another payment of just 20%. 20% to live on for 3 months. From a government whose own leader openly admits he can't survive on £150,000 a year. Now, I may sound ungrateful, but I'm not. I'm frustrated, but I'm not ungrateful because I know how lucky I am to have been getting anything. We've already heard that Equity established that just under half of their members received nothing, no financial support whatsoever. People who for years have paid into a system that now does not have their backs. We were grateful to hear the Minister for Culture, Media and Sport, Oliver Dowden's promise of a £1.57 billion injection into the arts. Though, along with the Arts Council's Cultural Recovery Fund, it wasn't likely that individuals would benefit from this support, only venues. It's great news for the arts centres and comedy clubs that will hopefully once again thrive once lockdown is over, but I wonder how long they'll survive when there are no artists to employ. By failing to support individuals, the government is failing to protect the arts that this country is famous for. I want to share with you a tweet from a comedian called Matt Kirshen. I've paraphrased it slightly because we're before the watershed, but he says, Rishi Sunak is right. Screw the arts. They add nothing. Many a time I've been somewhere else in the world and been told, man, I love Britain. You guys are such a robust banking industry. Or I can't wait to visit London and see Lloyds do some underwriting live. Hashtag unviable. The arts, of which comedy is a vital part, brings so much to the UK, like culture and tourism. We put billions into the economy and do wonders for mental health. So why aren't we being better cared for? Now, of course, I'm very aware we are not alone in this, that ours is just one of many professions hit by the pandemic, nor are we the only industry facing extinction. And make no mistake, that is what's at risk here. An industry-wide survey led by the Live Comedy Association carried out during lockdown had some particularly disturbing finds, with only 17% of promoters expecting to be running the same number of gigs after lockdown as they did beforehand. 17%. And a third of comedy venues expecting to face closure by the end of the year, and 78% within the next year. So it's great that venues will see some of that £1.57 billion, but what we also learned was that individuals need more support, with over 3/4 of performers saying they had earned less than 5% of their pre-pandemic estimated income from online performances. And this was my experience also. Remember those gigs that seemed to fly out of my diary? They weren't just gigs, they were income, my livelihood. I have a family, a mortgage, bills. I was sharing the homeschooling and childcare duties with my wife, who was also working from home, so I couldn't just head off and look for alternative work. I needed to be home-based and working as much as possible in the comedy world so that when all this is over, I'd have some level of career to go back to. So that's what I did. And as I look around the comedy industry, I was not alone. Comedians are putting themselves out there on a daily basis, entertaining audiences desperate for some light relief to distract them from the realities of life under lockdown. There's lots of talk at the moment about people going back to work. Well, comedians never stopped working. We stopped earning, but we did not stop working. We may not have continued performing in the comedy clubs, the local pubs, the village halls across the UK. We may not have continued contributing to local communities and economies as we travelled the length and breadth of the country. But we and all of our colleagues in the arts never stopped doing what we do best. And now we face the humiliation of being told our entire industry isn't viable, that nothing we've done up to this point matters, that members of our industry might not be supported if they choose to continue with their vocation. A vocation we've invested time and resources into, not to mention the billions we contribute every year in taxes. Comedy isn't viable. Not only have the last few months proved it's viable and sustainable, but we've also shown there's a need and a hunger for what we provide. Laughter. It may not really be the best medicine, as any good Jewish boy will tell you, that's chicken soup. But in the absence of a viable vaccine, we think laughter's a pretty good place to start.